Hello, welcome, and thanks for joining us. I'm Dan Hasan, graduate of Master's Science Education and Communication at Utrecht University, and I'm here today with Arthur Bakker. Would you mind introducing yourself for us, Arthur?
Sure. I'm Arthur Bakker, Associate Professor at the Freudenthal Institute at Utrecht University.
I think we should begin with the questions, get right into it. And so, would you mind recounting for the audience your recent research over the summer about education in the pandemic?
Of course. Right from the start of the corona time, we started research projects to understand what was going on and especially try to learn some lessons for the future. So I am involved in a couple of them. So we started with a survey study, and at the moment we're working on a review study to see what could be learned and also work on a vision paper to sort of summarize the major lessons that we see.
Okay, and just briefly, those major lessons, would you be able to list off a few that might be of most importance right now?
Yeah, so very briefly the situation, so what happened, we see that it's huge variability in how students, teachers cope with the situation. So most of people suffered, of course, more or less, but some flourished, and you also see that many students appreciate some issues like flexibility, no need to travel, more spare time, that sort of thing, but also a lot of challenges in terms of concentration, motivation, the need to find a regular structure in the day. So that first study for me pointed to the importance of rhythm, a rhythm in life, a rhythm in education. And by that I mean, you know, we were all used to do certain things at home, certain things at the university, certain things at the sports gym or in the park. You know, every activity had its own place and you traveled between them. So you make an effort and you relax, you are alone and you're together, and that's all in a rhythmic way. But suddenly students were in their tiny space and had to do everything there. Sleep, be social, be alone, work, relax, and that's a huge challenge for many.
Yeah, there's certainly been a blurring of the lines between work, school, recreation and home life. And is there a way that you can approach these with a new dimension or something that you found from your research that's really needed right now to address these?
Well, I've been thinking a lot about how we as a university, as teachers, can build rhythm into our education. So on a weekly basis, what I sometimes do is have all the assignments for the week at the end of the week, Friday, 5 o'clock. So once they've submitted, they can relax, but also have a more sort of weekly routine of handing in things. I try to have clear communication, clear structure, certain setup of the sessions, not too many transitions, a sort of well-being checking at the beginning to see if the basics are okay, that sort of thing. But there are loads of other things in which we can think of a rhythm to set it up for students, and also make sure that they see each other on WhatsApp or in group work, or I think that helped me at least think about, okay, what's healthy and good for our students so that they can concentrate on studying at certain moments in the week.
Indeed, it certainly seems an important aspect to keep a routine week to week so you can manage student expectations as well as your own. And in terms of scaling that up wider at the institution or the faculty, do you have ideas about how that can be done?
Oh, yeah, well, I think, it's very hard to say things at a large scale. I think teachers deal with very different situations and different resources. Small groups, large groups, that's all very different. And I think, for instance, what I liked in biology is that I know about a course where they put the lecture on Monday afternoon online, so that students know on Monday afternoon I have to watch this, and then on Tuesday morning we're going to discuss it in tutorials or small groups or so. Now that rather than have it online all the time, it gives a structure to someone's week, and it gives a collective moment. And I think, that's an example of something at a larger scale, which I think is good to think about.
Okay, and as for other examples of changes in teaching approaches that have been learned so that we don't repeat the same mistakes if something like this were to happen again?
Well, that's a tough one. I think we've learned a lot of lessons, and this is certainly not the last crisis we're going through. So I think one of the things we've learned is to be more flexible, have a wider repertoire of things we can do, and have learned to be more flexible with procedures and rules and so on, and more flat organizations. Those things came out of the review study that we did. And if I say we, I mean I've been involved with 5 people in one group and 5 in another, so I can't name everyone, unfortunately. But the thing we care about most, so to speak, is care. And that's something we really think is important to think about what that means. We have seen wonderful examples of teachers who fostered the pedagogy of care for their students, and what this entails. I already mentioned the well-being check-in at the beginning of a session, but you can also point students to the support that is there at the university. One thing that came out of our survey was Utrecht has a lot of options, like psychologists and counseling and yoga. There is a lot. And often students don't know it, or can't find it, or don't take this hurdle to ask for help. So as a teacher, I've alerted students to the tips that are there, the support that there's there, and that's something I think we've learned collectively, to focus more on care, because people need it in a difficult situation like a crisis in the pandemic and so on. So things that were sort of taken for granted in the decades before, we now see more clearly. The pandemic, in that sense, has been a magnifying glass on everything that was already there, but more clearly and more poignantly, including the wider inequity that was already there.
And so would you say an attitude shift is needed in education?
I would hope so, yes. That's as I said, the biggest lesson we've learned is that we need to care much more at every level about ourselves, our bodies, each other, our students, our discipline. Really take it seriously. We really need all this knowledge, in our case, in STEM, like mathematics, science, to basically save the Earth, right? I mean, that's our biggest challenge.
The largest scale.
The largest scale I can imagine, at least. And somehow I sort of can't understand that we're not changing everything much more rapidly. Like, we don't have decades, we have years maybe, right? So
well, it's our first pandemic, and the first time that we're putting these practices in place and really evaluating it.
Yeah, so that's for me the major lesson, the issue of care. And what this exactly entails, we can talk about each level of micro to big. And I think we can say very little general about it, but we have to find our own ways in our own situations. What does it mean for me to care, and about what and for whom? And not... in a balanced way, because if I would only care about my students, I might forget myself, and if I only care about the planet, I might forget my daughter, So it has to that has to be a rhythmic issue of caring about and for various people and things around us.
And in what spaces will you be practicing more care in your education or pedagogy from now on?
Yeah, I really want to change my own education also. I've been teaching research methods, research proposals, supervising research projects, and I think I want to take justice, social justice, much more seriously and pay more attention to it, because we need more justice in the world to be able to serve humanity and Earth. I would love to think with students and teachers alike what the education of the future should look like. I think we can't wait. We have to talk about it now. Yeah, so that's what I hope to do.
Okay. Well, it's been a pleasure to have been able to talk about the future of education with you. Thanks very much.
It's a pleasure.